Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And with permission, I'll make a statement to update the House on the new joint action between the UK and France to tackle dangerous small boat crossings which undermine both UK and French border security, which put lives at risk in the Channel, which fuel organised crime and which cause disorder and damage both here in the UK and in France. The new agreement reached at the summit last week means stronger partnership working with source and transit countries to prevent illegal migration, stronger law enforcement action against criminal and smuggler and trafficking gangs who profit from this trade in human lives, action to strengthen the border itself along the French coast and in the Channel, a groundbreaking new returns agreement so that for the first time people arriving on small boats can be sent back to France, and stronger action here in the UK to stop illegal working and tackle long-term system failures which are exploited by criminal gangs to encourage people to travel to the UK. I hope the whole House will welcome each of these important steps. Global instability continues to drive irregular and illegal migration towards Europe and towards the UK, and it is exploited and encouraged by criminal gangs who seek to make maximum profit from human misery and insecurity. And that means France faces challenges too, with over 150,000 people claiming asylum there in 2024. The most serious aspect we face is the dangerous small boat crossings that undermine our border security and put lives at risk. Before 2018, we barely saw anyone try to cross by boat, but in the years that followed, a major criminal industry was allowed to grow and take deep hold along our border. In the space of just 5 years, the number of small boat crossings increased more than 100-fold, from less than 400 in 2018 to over 40,000 by 2023, weakening border security and Chris Philp.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement. The Home Secretary comes here today sounding rather pleased with herself. I'm afraid she has no reason to. A year ago, she promised to smash the gangs. She said again and again that was her plan. Indeed, it was her only plan. Yet today, there is no mention of what was once her favourite catchphrase. That is because her claim to smash the gangs has become a joke, an embarrassment to her and to the government,
damaging public trust in the state's ability to manage border control. For too long, Britain's response has been underpowered and ineffective, and so too has the cooperation across Europe, letting criminal gangs get away with it and leaving the asylum system in chaos. The coordinated work across Europe has been far too weak, and so too has been the work between the UK and our nearest neighbours for far too long. As we have set out before, smuggler and trafficking gangs make their money by operating across borders, so governments need to cooperate across borders to take them down. And in the system we inherited for years, that had not happened. So securing UK borders is a fundamental part of the Prime Minister's plan for change, and that is why we're building the foundations of a new international approach, working with countries across Europe and beyond to strengthen and secure our borders, to prevent dangerous and illegal boat crossings and stop criminal gangs who are putting lives at risk. So let me take each in turn. First, upstream cooperation. Much stronger joint action is needed with source and transit countries to prevent dangerous journeys in the first place. So we've strengthened the key partnerships with the G7 and Calais Group and have established a new joint upstream working group with France, chaired by the Border Security Commander and the Minister for Interior's Special Representative on Migration, to be able to target action with source and transit countries, including on prevention campaigns, law enforcement and returns. And for example, we're working jointly with the government of Iraq and the Kurdish regional government to tackle the Iraqi Kurdish smuggler gangs who stretch their operations between Iraq and northern France and the UK. Second, extending that stronger law enforcement action against the criminal gangs. Already, we have introduced the Border Security and Asylum and Immigration Bill to introduce counter-terrorism-style powers on people smuggling. We've established the Border Security Command to mobilise UK agencies and funded extra specialist NCA intelligence and investigations officers, including staff stationed across Europe and in Europol. We brought together representatives from over 50 countries and international organisations at the Border Security Summit earlier this year. And in comparison to the year before, we have increased disruptions against more high-end, high-harm targets by nearly a quarter, closed twice as many social media accounts, 18,000 social media accounts used by smugglers to sell boat crossings are now down, and increased the cost for gangs of boat and engine packages being delivered to northern France, hitting their business model. All the work done by the National Crime Agency this year. And now we're going further with additional recruitment of NCA officers and, crucially, a new specialist intelligence and judicial police unit in Dunkirk to speed up the arrest and prosecution of smugglers in France. Third, strengthening the border itself. French actions have prevented 496 boat crossings this year, but 385 boats have crossed. And criminal gangs are operating new tactics, increasing the overcrowding of boats so that more people arrive and loading them in shallow waters, exploiting the French rules that mean their authorities have not been able to intervene in the water. Those tactics have driven the appalling scenes, with people clambering onto crowded boats in shallow waters, disgraceful violence from gang members towards the French police and towards migrants, and people crushed to death in the middle of these overcrowded boats. We cannot stand for this. And that is why the new action agreed with France includes establishing a new French compagnie de marche of specialist enforcement officers with stronger public order powers to address increases in violence on French beaches and prevent boat launches before they reach the water, providing training for additional drone pilots to intercept boat launches, and, crucially, supporting the maritime review, the new review instigated by the French Interior Minister, so that they can intervene more effectively, pursuing what last week's declaration describes as a novel and innovative approaches to intercept boats and enhanced maritime cooperation to ensure we adapt as the criminal gangs change their approach. Meanwhile, we're changing our domestic law in the Border Security Bill to criminalise those who endanger people's lives at sea, so we can more easily prosecute those who crowd onto overcrowded boats and put other people's lives at risk. Action in both French and UK waters. Fourth, new innovative approaches to returns. Already since the election, we have increased international returns for those with no right to be in the UK. But until now, we have not been able to return people who have travelled by these dangerous and illegal boat crossings to other safe countries that they have travelled through. Previous governments tried to achieve this, indeed even promised it, but never secured an agreement to do so. Under the groundbreaking agreement announced by the Prime Minister and President Macron last week, individuals who arrive in the UK by small boat can for the first time be readmitted to France. This is the right thing to do, and is also an important step towards undermining the business model of the organised crime groups behind these crossings. So we've agreed to establish a safe reciprocal exchange mechanism for individuals in France who apply with appropriate documentation to be transferred to the UK subject to clear eligibility criteria and stringent security checks. Transfers to the UK under the new route will match the number readmitted to France on a one-for-one basis. Further details of this scheme will be set out in the immigration rules once final arrangements are in place. And this innovative agreement means people who undertake illegal, dangerous journeys to the UK, putting their own and other people's lives at risk and paying money to fuel an entire criminal industry, being returned to France, where the boats set off from. And in return, we will take people who apply lawfully, who pass security checks, with priority given to those who have a connection with the UK, those who are most likely to be refugees or are most vulnerable to smuggler gangs. So yes, this is the right thing to do, establishing a principle that whilst the UK will always be ready to play its part alongside other countries in helping those fleeing persecution and conflict, we believe this should be done through a controlled and managed legal way, not through dangerous, illegal, uncontrolled or criminal routes. And it's also the first step to undermining the promises made by criminal gangs when they tell people that if they travel to the UK, they cannot be returned to the continent. Now they can be. And we will develop the pilot step by step and trial different approaches as part of it, varying the numbers and seeking the most effective ways to undermine the gangs, to reduce boat crossings and also to help France deal with the problems that they face in the Calais region. The Prime Minister and French President set out their expectation that this will be operationalised in the coming weeks. Fifth, we will take stronger action on illegal working and asylum failures here in the UK, because for far too long it has been too easy for people to work illegally in the UK and for employers to exploit them, undercutting responsible businesses. Already, we have increased illegal working raids and arrests by 50% since the election. Already, we have more than tripled the value of employer penalties issued to over £89 million. And we've launched a new surge in enforcement linked to the gig economy, with changes to the law in the Borders Bill to compel companies to conduct proper checks on the right to work. And we will also bring forward further reforms to the asylum system to prevent its operation being exploited either by gangs to encourage travel to the UK or for people here illegally to find unfair ways to stay. So we need to be part of the global response to irregular and illegal migration, not separate from it. Working in partnership, not just shouting and pointing at the sea. Everyone knows that there is no single silver bullet to tackle illegal migration and dangerous boat crossings. And it takes time to unpick the deep roots that gangs have put down and to build the foundations of a new cross-border approach. But that is what we're determined to do. Stronger borders, stronger law enforcement in France and in the UK, increasing returns, and building the foundations of a new long-term approach where countries cooperate to prevent illegal migration and to ensure that there is sanctuary for genuine refugees. No one should be making these dangerous boat journeys which undermine our border security and put lives at risk. That is why this cooperation between the UK and France is so important, and I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary